Boys and girls, this is Mrs. Wingervasio, and today we're going to be covering Chapter 4, Lesson 4.1, Writing and Graphing Inequalities. Reference pages to this can be found in your Google Classroom, pages 126 and 127. Let's go ahead and start off with some vocabulary. So you're going to need to know in this chapter and this particular lesson what an inequality. As a reminder, an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. So if you use the following symbols right here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it in just a second. The following symbols, these are called inequalities. Now, below here I have 4 rows of inequalities. I'm going to start off with the first one. This first one is called the less than symbol. This less than is also referred to as fewer than. The next one I have is going to be the greater than symbol. This greater than symbol can often be referred to as more than as well. And the next one I have here is called less than, but then it's also equal to because it has an equal to at the bottom. It's often also referred to as at most or no more than. And then finally, my last one I have here is called the greater than or equal to because it's a greater than, but it also has an equal sign at the bottom. And you can also see this as or refer to this as at least or no less than. Now going back to our less than symbol, now, a way you can remember between the less than and greater than is here's a trick. Less than looks like the letter L if you look at it. It's kind of like a little slanted L. So that's a way that I remember what less than and greater than the difference if you're having trouble. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and have us start off with an example here. Example 1. We're going to be writing an inequality using the following table. So make sure if you need to pause this part, go ahead and pause it. Write down this table. This table is very, very, very important, especially the words that you see in the chart. Okay, so let's pause it and write down the table. Okay, so now that you've written down the table, I'm going to have you look at that table and try to read the sentence and see if you can come up with a math problem using an inequality. Now, remember, when we're writing our math problem now, we're not going to have an equal sign now. Instead of an equal sign, we're going to have an inequality instead. So we're going to be writing an inequality in this lesson. So it says, let's start. A number Q. A number Q. Do you know the number? Yes, we do. It's Q plus, we know it's plus what number? 5. Now, here's where you need to be careful. Is greater than or equal to. Let's go back to our chart. Which one says is greater than? That one does. But does it say equal to? No. Let's see. Oh, is greater than or equal to. So we're going to use the greater than with the equal. You see, is greater than or equal to? So is greater than equal to. We're going to greater than and equal to. Greater than and equal to. To what? We notice it's going to be to 7 or negative 7.9. And that's all. That's all you have to do. So you're going to be reading each sentence and you're going to be writing an inequality for it. Okay? So please refer to the following slide to do the next part in your homework. So for homework, let's go ahead and take out a piece of paper. I'm going to have you go ahead and start with on your own numbers 1 and 2. Please refer back to the chart that we just copied down for the following questions. So pause the video and solve these problems. All right. In our next example, what you're going to need to know is you're going to need to know what a solution of an inequality. It's basically when you solve the problem and when you plug in the value for the inequality, the answers are true. So that would be the solution. If the answers are true, that's the solution. If it's not true, you don't have a solution. And when you do have a solution, you often might see what is called a solution set. In other words, you might have more than one answer. So I'm going to show you something really quick. So I have here this problem. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in green for you so you can see. So I have here this problem. It says here, or in blue, x plus 2 is less than or equal to negative 1. They're asking if you were to plug in a negative 2, is it true? So let's see. If you plug in a negative 2 plus 2, remember this negative 2 is the x, is less than or equal to negative 1. Is that a true statement? Well, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So and then they're saying, is negative 1 greater than 0? If you think about it on a number line, is negative 1 greater than 0? Let's take a look on a number line. So here's my number line. I'm just going to draw it right here. Here's my number line. Here's 0. Here's -1. Is -1 bigger? Actually, no. 0 is bigger, so we're going to say this is going to be a false statement. So there's no solution for this one. So that's why they put no. Now, if I plugged in another value, -3, it says here, if x is -3, this is a true solution. So I plug it in, -3 plus 2, that's -1. Now, if you're thinking, oh, why is this a yes? It's a yes because it is, now remember, this symbol represents less than or equal to. So do you see that equal to sign at the bottom right there? Okay, since there's an equal sign there, -1 and -1, they are equal to each other. So since that's the case, you do have a yes. This is a true inequality. It isn't equal, or it isn't, this isn't greater than this, but it is equal to. So since it's equal to, it is a yes. Now for this next one, if you were to plug in a -4, plug in a -4 for x, -4 plus 2. Is this a true statement? Let's see. Is -1 really bigger than -2? Now if you look at the number line again, a -2 would pop up right here. So -2 is way less than a -1. So -1 is greater than -2, so it is a yes. Now, if you are confused on this, don't worry, because I have some examples for us to do. So let's go ahead and start with some examples. I have here two. So they're asking you, are the following questions here? Y minus 5 is greater than or equal to -6. Is that going to be true if you were to plug in a -2? So let's see. If I plug in a -2 for y, -2 minus 5, again, I'm just copying down the problem and plugging in y is -2. Is this a true statement? Let's see. So what we're doing is we're checking. Is this a true statement? So -2 minus 5, the signs are the same. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to carry the sign. I'm going to bring down this inequality, and -6. Okay, let's stare at these numbers really quick. Are these two numbers going to make the true statement? Which one's bigger, a -6 or a -7? Well, negatives, the bigger the negative, remember, the smaller it is. So I'd rather have a -6. This is actually going to be a greater number. So is this a true statement? They said that -7 is true, or -7 is greater. Is it greater? Nope. Is it even equal to? Nope. So the answer to this solution would be a no. It is not. So you would just put no for your homework answers. Now for the next one I have here, it says here, you're going to plug in y is -2 again. So y is -2. And then we're going to times this. Oops, you know what? Let me use another marker. We're going to times 2, or I'm sorry, we're going to times -2. We're going to times -2 by, here it says here -5.5. So I'm going to put -5.5. So -5.5 times -2 is going to give me 11, because a negative times a negative is positive. Then I'm going to bring down my inequality, bring down my 14. So is this a true statement? Is 14 greater than 11? And the answer is yes, it is. So since it is, we'll say yes. This is a correct solution. So all we're doing in example 2 is we're trying to figure out, is the answer they give you the correct solution for each problem? And if it is, you put yes. And if it isn't, you put no. So go ahead and try on your own on the same paper that you did number 1 and 2. Now do number 3, 4, and 5. All you're doing is plugging in -5 every time you see a variable. And you're going to check to see if the solution is true. And if it is true, you put yes. If it's not true, you put no. Be careful again on the equal sign. Okay? All right. In our last example that we have here, now in this example, you're going to have to be very careful. So make sure you jot this important information down. Now, you will need to know the following. If you see less than or greater than, you're going to be having an open circle. It doesn't make sense yet, but I'll show you in a bit. Now, if you see a less than or equal to, you're going to have a closed circle. If you see a greater than or equal to, you're going to have a closed circle. Now, I don't know if you notice or see the difference between these two, but the difference is one has an equal sign at the bottom and one doesn't. So since this one has an equal sign at the bottom, not only do you have a circle, but you have a circle and it's colored. So that's a way you can remember it. Okay? So make sure you write this down in your notes and make sure you study it. All right. Now, Here's what we're going to do. We're going to be drawing a number line for each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a number line really quick. Now, you can do this the short way and just put 0 here and put negative, or I'm sorry, put a positive 8. And since we're talking about negative, we'll put a negative 8 here. Now, look at this inequality and look to see what does this say. Is this a greater than, or is it a greater than or equal to? Now, this is a greater than. If I look back, if I have a greater than with no equal sign, I'm going to have an open circle. So I'm going to go ahead and graph this at negative 8, open it, okay, and then watch. Treat the inequality as if it's like a bow and arrow. So, you know, in bow and arrow, it looks like this, kind of like for Valentine's, okay? Looks like that. That's my bow and arrow. And so if you look at this bow and arrow, there's my bow and arrow. There we go. It looks like it's pointing towards the right. So this is like the bow and arrow. You see that bow and arrow? Okay, bow and arrow. There we go. Let me go ahead and erase this. So since it's pointing to the right, you're going to go ahead and take this graph and point it to the right. That's all. So they're saying that if you have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any number of those that I just listed, that is the correct answer right here. Is that true? If you plug in 7, is 7 greater than a negative 8? Absolutely. So that's all it's saying. Okay? So I'm going to have you do the next one with me. So again, we're going to go ahead and draw a number line. This number line says here P is greater than or equal to 3. Oh, I noticed there's an equal sign. So can you guess what kind of circle I'm going to have? And then don't forget, notice I'm always doing the opposite of two of the numbers. So a positive 3 and a negative 3. A positive 8 and a negative 8. Okay, so I'm going to go to 3. Now is this an open or closed circle? Since I have an equal sign at the bottom, take a look. An equal sign at the bottom, I'm going to close my circle. So now I'm going to close this circle. Now, which way should it be pointing to? Again, this is like a bow and arrow. It's pointing towards the right, that arrow. So I'm just going to take this and point it towards the right. Now, this next one I have here, our last one. I'm going to have you guys look at it very carefully. Do you notice anything different about the variable? Which side is the variable on? It's on the right. Now notice on these two, the variables are on the left. Your variable should always be on your left when you're graphing. So since this is not, what we're going to do is we're just going to rewrite the problem. So it's going to be x, and then 2/3 right here. And if you notice, the x was greater, so all I'm going to do is make the x greater. Do you notice how the alligator is eating the x? So I made the alligator eating the x this way. So now that we have our variable on the correct side, we can begin to graph. Again, you always should have your variable on the correct side. So we have here 0, always put the 0, and then 2/3 positive, and then you do the opposite, 2/3 negative on the other side. So now that you have negative 2/3 on the other side, we can begin to graph. So find 2/3. So 2/3 is right here. And are we going to have an open circle or closed? Is there an equal sign at the bottom? Nope. So we're going to open it. And which way is this arrow pointing to? Notice it's pointing this way to the right. So we're going to go right. And that's it. And that's how you graph an inequality. So if you didn't understand this part, go ahead and pause it and replay this section again so that way you can understand it for the homework questions in the next slide. Okay? Again, make sure you review this slide because it's very, very important. All right, go ahead and try number 6, 7, 8, and 9 on your own on the same homework paper. So you should now by now have 9 questions, okay? All right, exit ticket. So make sure you answer the following questions in your homework on the same page as the on your own, the exit ticket. Please answer these 3 questions in a nice, a complete sentence for me. Pause the video and write down all your answers. Okay, we'll talk about the lesson and the homework questions tomorrow in class. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.